Hello again, Lisanun and everyone. I'm going to begin answering these questions here from Lisanun in our group conversation, starting with his first question. If helping people far away is always parasitic, what moral principle determines that human compassion should only exist within geographic distance? Why should distance decide the value of human life? First of all, when I was a pre-medical student at New York University many years ago, I remember very clearly one of our biology professors came to us and said, nature is amoral. It is neither immoral nor moral. Nature is amoral. Nature has no morals. Nature doesn't dictate that there must always be compassion. Nature doesn't dictate that humans should not suffer. Nature doesn't dictate that human life must exist. When we look in ancient scripture, in the beginning of Genesis, in the first couple of chapters, we see a tree of life and we see a tree of knowledge of good and evil. And in that ancient story, God said, don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And we ate from it. And I have tried to explain in earlier groups of ours that included you, Lisanun, that these ideas of good and evil usually are based on a human delusion. On a human delusion that what makes us suffer is wrong, and what alleviates human suffering is good and right. That is not written into the laws of nature. That's not written into the laws of life. That's not written into the laws of physics. We are not necessarily better than other animals. Sometimes we appear to be worse than other animals. There are many animals all over the world right now, including humans, but also including more non-humans, more animals of every species that are suffering right now in this moment and dying and feeling pain, and even many mammals around the planet feeling great sadness. There are chimpanzees eating other chimpanzees, presumably somewhere in the world right now. There are probably humans eating other humans somewhere in the world right now. Nature doesn't make this wrong. We make this wrong if we come together in certain groups and we decide to make it wrong together. But it's not an absolute principle. Also, going back to that original tree with the knowledge of good and evil, part of the terrible delusion in that experience of taking the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil and eating that fruit, part of the delusion of that experience is that we could be gods. We could decide everything relative to our own feelings. Okay? So, you are thousands of miles away in Africa. By the regular processes of nature and our genetic gifts in our bodies and what we have inherited from nature, I should not be speaking to you today from Costa Rica. I should not be speaking to you in Malawi. Why? Because I am a very finite creature. I am a very limited animal. I am not a god. We humans are not gods. We are extremely small and we are extremely finite. Okay? And I have inherited a combination of physical genetics, genetic material that I did not create, and I am meant to pass it on to my children and grandchildren. And I have inherited language that I did not create, the English language, and certain cultural patterns, and dictionaries and books written by others that I'm also responsible for sharing and passing on around me to help, presumably, to help my children survive. Now, why am I supposed to do this? This is a law of nature that we call evolution. I do this because these things have helped me survive. And I do this because what has helped me survive will presumably help my children and grandchildren and people around me in my community survive. But I am not God. Okay, I did not make these rules. I did not make the rules of evolution. I do not do this just because I decided to do it because I feel like doing it. No, if I do these things and I cooperate with my own biology and the laws of evolution, I personally will be more integrated. I will have less stress and strain. I will function during the days of my life in a healthier manner. And I will break down and fall apart and die at the right time and not too soon, if I surrender to the reality of my life, the reality of physics, the reality of biology, the reality of nature, and I cooperate with reality. This is cooperating with God, the author of reality. And even if we don't believe in God, it doesn't matter. God can be a synonym for reality. Cooperating with reality is cooperating with the author of reality. God or the random physics that caused reality, it doesn't matter in terms of my duty and my health and my integration as a human being. Nature is amoral. All right? So we do have some moral principles that are instinctual to us as a human being, but why? Why do we have those in nature? We have those for working with a small group of humans around us that traditionally we would call a tribe. All right? And so when Jesus said to the stranger who came to him from Samaria, it's not right for me to take my bread off of the table and throw it to begging dogs on the side who are not from here, Jesus was saying the same thing as me. I'm responsible for the family I came from. The family and the community I came from have given me my life, including the Costa Ricans and Panamanians around me. They help support my life and the life of my children. They work on the roads I walk on. They're part of my immediate community. So my gift of life comes from my family and from the support of Panamanians and Costa Ricans around me as I live in Central America. So my primary duty is to them. Now, if I have moral instincts, which moral psychologists like Jonathan Haidt of New York University would say that I have, those moral instincts are for purity, reciprocity, authority, compassion, and loyalty. Those 5 moral instincts are shared, but they're meant to be primarily shared locally. We can think about, with our sophisticated brains, how to try to scale these up and to what extent we can share these instincts across oceans. But that's not where they originally came from. They originally work in nature so that humans can work together as social animals in local cooperative groups, not across the ocean.